Today we're diving into the Bhagavad Gita.
Oh, yeah. One of those classics.
Exactly. Been on my list forever. We'll be looking at Eknath Easwaran's translation and commentary.
Awesome. And you know what's really cool about the Gita? It's not just some dry philosophy. It's a story.
Oh, that's way better. I was a little worried about that. Hit me with it. What's the story?
Okay, so imagine ancient India, battlefield. Two armies are about to clash. The tension, you can cut it with a sword, but the real drama, it's all happening inside Prince Arjuna.
Okay. Arjuna, prince, warrior, got it.
Right. And he's got this huge dilemma. On one side of the battlefield, his duty. On the other side, his entire family.
Oh, no. Talk about a rock and a hard place.
Right. He's supposed to fight, but it would mean fighting his own family.
Right.
Heartbreaking, right? Have you ever felt that kind of pull, two ways at once?
Oof, yeah. Tough choices.
Yeah.
So what does he do?
Well, in this moment of crisis, he turns to his charioteer, Krishna.
Okay. His charioteer.
Right.
But here's the thing. Krishna isn't just any charioteer. He is a divine incarnation.
Wait, what? Okay, things just got interesting.
Right. And through their conversation, the Gita unfolds. It becomes this amazing guide to navigating, not just battles on a battlefield, but those battles we all face within ourselves.
So less about swords and shields, more about winning those inner battles. I like it. But how? Does it give us some ancient cheat code for life?
Well, not a cheat code exactly, but it does offer some really powerful insights. One of the first things Krishna does is reveal the existence of the Atman.
I thought, man.
Yeah, think of it like a divine spark that exists within each of us. That part of you that feels eternal, connected to something much bigger.
Okay, a divine spark. I'm following. But what does that actually mean for us, in our everyday lives?
It means that you and everyone around you are connected to this infinite, unifying reality called Brahman.
Brahman, got it. Like a vast ocean of consciousness. And each of us, we're like waves on that ocean. We might seem separate on the surface, but underneath, we're all part of the same source.
Okay, that is pretty mind-blowing.
Wow.
So we've got this Atman, this Brahman, this idea of interconnectedness. But how do we actually tap into that? Does the Gita give us a step-by-step guide?
It's not so much about steps, but about understanding different paths. The Gita outlines 3 major paths to self-realization: karma yoga, jnana yoga, and bhakti yoga.
3 paths. All right, lay it on me.
Okay, so first, karma yoga. Think of it as the path of selfless action. It's not about being a workaholic or blindly following orders. It's about showing up and doing what needs to be done, but with a sense of detachment from the outcome.
So if I'm working on a huge project, it's not about stressing over the promotion, but about doing my best work, not getting too caught up in the results.
You got it. It's about shifting your focus from what's in it for me to how can I contribute. That's karma yoga.
Okay, that makes sense. What about jnana yoga? What's that all about?
Jnana yoga is the path of knowledge and wisdom. It's about using your intellect to see beyond those illusions and temporary distractions of the world, It's like training your mind to recognize what's truly important, what's eternal.
So less about doing, more about thinking. Understanding the deeper nature of things.
Yeah, exactly. Cultivating discernment, seeing through the surface level and understanding the underlying truth.
I like the sound of that. Okay, we've got selfless action and wisdom. What's the third one? Bhakti yoga.
Bhakti yoga, that's the path of devotion and love. It's about cultivating a deep connection with the divine, however you understand that. Recognizing that same divine spark within yourself and in every living being.
Okay, so if jnana yoga is about the head, bhakti yoga is about the heart.
You could say that. And these paths, they're not mutually exclusive. They can all work together. But how do we know which path is right for us at any given time? That's where the gunas come in.
The gunas. That sounds familiar.
Right. The gunas are these 3 qualities of energy that color everything we do and experience. Think of them like, different flavors or colors that affect our thoughts, actions, perceptions.
Okay, flavors or colors. I can picture that.
Yeah.
So what are these gunas?
The Gita describes sattva, rajas, and tamas. Sattva is pure, harmonious energy. Think of it like the stillness of a mountain lake. Rajas is the energy of action and passion. Imagine the bustling energy of a city. And tamas is inertia, heaviness, darkness, like that feeling of being stuck in a rut.
So it's like these different energies are always at play within us. We're not just one guna all the time.
Exactly. We all have all 3 gunas within us, but they manifest in different ways depending on, our choices, our habits, even our environment.
So how do these gunas relate to those 3 paths we were talking about earlier?
Each path can help us cultivate and balance those gunas. For example, selfless action, that karma yoga, it can help purify and refine that rajas energy, transform ambition into a force for good.
So by understanding the gunas, we can start to see which path might be the most helpful for us at any given time.
Precisely. It's all about self-awareness, understanding what's driving our actions and how we can create more balance, more harmony in our lives. Pretty cool, right?
Totally. Okay, so we've got these three paths, these gunas influencing us. Where does karma fit into all of this? Is it like a cosmic scorecard? Points for good deeds, penalties for bad ones.
That's a common misconception. The Gita's concept of karma is less about punishment and reward, more about understanding cause and effect. Every action creates this ripple effect, influencing not just our external circumstances, but also our internal state.
So it's less about what goes around comes around, and more about recognizing that we're actively shaping our own reality.
Exactly. It's about taking responsibility for our actions, understanding we have the power to change our future by changing ourselves.
That's empowering. So it's not about being passive, just accepting whatever fate throws our way.
Not at all. The Gita is a call to action, to engage with life consciously, to make choices that are aligned with our highest potential.
This is already so much to think about, but there's one more thing I'm curious about. Shraddha. We haven't talked much about that yet.
Shraddha. Incredibly important in the Gita. It's not blind faith, but this deep inner conviction, that trust in something greater than yourself. The universe, the divine, however you perceive it.
So it's like an inner knowing, a sense of trust that guides us even when things get tough.
Exactly. Shraddha is powerful. It gives us strength, purpose, direction. It can even boost our resilience, help us heal.
Wow, this is all really fascinating.
Right, so the first chapter really sets the scene. Picture this. Two massive armies facing each other. Energy is electric. You've got anticipation, fear. It's all there.
Intense.
Totally. And Arjuna, he looks across the battlefield and he sees his relatives, his friends, his teachers, all arrayed against him. And his heart just sinks.
Oh, man. I can't even imagine that feeling of, like your whole world's about to collide.
Yeah, exactly. He's completely overwhelmed. Sorrow, doubt, the weight of it all. He even questions, like, what's the point of victory if it comes at such a terrible cost?
It's like he's having a total breakdown right there on the battlefield.
And in that moment, this raw human despair, that's when he turns to Krishna for guidance.
Makes sense. He needs help.
Yeah. And remember, at this point, Arjuna, he doesn't fully grasp that Krishna is a divine incarnation. He just sees him as, a wise friend, a mentor. But Krishna, he senses the depth of Arjuna's crisis, and he starts to reveal his true nature.
Ooh, this is where things get really interesting.
Absolutely. Krishna begins by explaining the nature of the self, the Atman. He tells Arjuna that the self, it's not subject to birth or death. It's beyond, the reach of weapons, fire, the elements themselves. It's this unchanging reality that wears the body, kind of like a garment.
So it's saying our physical bodies are temporary, but our souls, our true selves, those are eternal. That's a pretty powerful idea.
Right. And for Arjuna, this is huge. It's challenging everything he thought he knew about, life and death.
I could see how that would be mind-blowing, especially when you're surrounded by, well, the possibility of death.
Exactly. And Krishna goes on, he explains that death, it's just a transition, like shedding an old garment. The soul moves on.
Interesting.
He tells Arjuna that wise people, they don't grieve for the living or the dead because they understand that the self, it's beyond this cycle of birth and death.
Wow. That's a whole different way of looking at things. But how does this all relate to those three paths we talked about before, karma, yoga, and all that?
Well, it lays the groundwork for understanding, like, how to approach life, how to act, how to think, recognizing this deeper reality. Oh. And the three paths, karma yoga, jnana yoga, bhakti yoga, those are tools for navigating this reality.
Okay. I'm starting to see how it all connects. It's not about picking one path, but kind of weaving them together.
You got it. Knowledge, action, devotion, all essential parts of the journey towards self-realization.
Okay, cool. So, earlier we were talking about how the gunas influence our actions and perceptions.
Right.
Does the Gita give us any practical advice on how to cultivate, those more positive qualities?
Oh, for sure. In chapter 6, Krishna talks about mastering the senses, calming the mind. He really emphasizes meditation as a way to achieve that inner balance.
Wait, hold on. Does that mean we all need to go live in a cave and meditate for, hours? Because I don't know if I'm ready for that level of commitment.
No, not at all. The Gita is about living in the world, not escaping from it. Krishna tells Arjuna, meditation. It doesn't require, extreme asceticism. It's about finding a quiet place, even for a few minutes, getting comfortable, focusing your mind.
Okay, that sounds a lot more doable.
Yeah.
But how does meditation actually, help us on this path to self-realization?
So Krishna explains that when the mind is still, our true self, that can be revealed. He compares the mind to a lamp flame in a windless place. When the wind of desires and distractions is calmed, the flame, it burns steady and bright.
Ooh, I like that analogy. That makes
Yeah.
a lot of sense. What about karma yoga and bhakti yoga? Do they get equal time in the Gita?
Absolutely. Chapter 3 is all about selfless service. That's the heart of karma yoga. Krishna tells Arjuna that fulfilling your duties, but with detachment and dedication, that's a form of worship, like offering your actions as a gift to the divine.
So it's not about getting recognition for what we do, but about, the intention behind it.
You got it. Shifting our motivation from what can I get to how can I serve. And Krishna emphasizes that even the smallest act, but performed with that spirit of selflessness, that can make a huge difference.
That's inspiring. It means we can practice karma yoga anytime, anywhere. Okay, what about bhakti yoga, the path of devotion?
Right. Chapter 9 is where Bhakti Yoga really shines. Krishna reveals himself as, the supreme reality, the source of all creation. And he tells Arjuna that true devotion involves surrendering to this divine reality, recognizing it in everything and everyone.
So it's like that idea of interconnectedness we were talking about earlier.
Yeah.
Seeing the divine spark in ourselves and in all beings.
Exactly. Bhakti Yoga is about experiencing that unity, that oneness that underlies, the apparent diversity of the world. It's about cultivating love and compassion.
That's beautiful. So we've got these three paths, all offering a different perspective, but ultimately leading towards the same goal, self-realization. Seems like we've got some choices to make.
And the Gita reminds us, these paths, they're not mutually exclusive. They complement and support each other. Krishna even tells Arjuna that even those who don't know these paths directly, they can still attain liberation by following, the guidance of an enlightened teacher or just living a virtuous life.
So it's about finding what resonates with us, what speaks to our hearts,
Yeah.
and putting it into practice.
Exactly. The Gita is not meant to be like this rigid dogma. It's a living guidebook for navigating the complexities of life. It's about experimenting, exploring, discovering what works for you.
This is also inspiring. It feels like, a roadmap for inner transformation.
Right.
But the one thing I'm still kind of stuck on, the Gita talks about these demonic qualities, these forces that lead to suffering. How do we deal with those? Do we just ignore them and hope they go away?
Great question. That's something the Gita definitely tackles head on. In chapter 16, Krishna describes these two paths that are before us, the divine path and the demonic path.
So it doesn't shy away from the shadow side of, human nature.
Not at all. He lists the qualities that characterize each path, the virtues that lead to freedom, and the vices that, bind us to suffering.
What are some of those demonic qualities?
He mentions, hypocrisy, arrogance, conceit, anger, cruelty, and ignorance. He explains that these qualities, they come from a distorted view of reality. It's like forgetting that there's a higher purpose, a moral order.
Yeah, I can see how those qualities would cause problems
Yeah.
for ourselves and, everyone around us.
But here's the important part. Krishna doesn't leave us hanging. He emphasizes that we all have the potential for both, good and evil within us. He reminds Arjuna that he was born with divine attributes and that those qualities, those can be cultivated through conscious effort.
So it's about recognizing those negative tendencies and then actively choosing to nurture the positive ones. It's like, weeding a garden.
Exactly. The Gita is a call to awaken to our true nature, to shed those limitations of the ego, to embrace our divine potential.
Powerful stuff. It's like we're getting this masterclass in personal growth. But I'm curious, how do we actually apply these teachings,
Yeah.
in everyday life? There's one thing to read about the gunas and the paths, but how do we actually live them?
Right. That's where the rubber meets the road. And the Gita doesn't just offer these, abstract concepts. It gives us practical guidance on how to integrate these teachings into our thoughts, actions, relationships.
Okay, give me an example. I'm all about practical tips.
For example, in chapter 17, Krishna talks about the three types of faith: sattvic, rajasic, and tamasic. And get this, he shows how these show up in our choices, our habits, even our food preferences.
We really? Our food?
Yeah. He explains that people who are more sattvic, they're drawn to, simple, pure, nourishing foods, while rajasic folks, they might crave, stimulating, spicy, or rich foods, and those who are more tamasic might go for, stale, overcooked, or processed foods.
So he's saying what we eat affects our consciousness.
Mm-hmm.
Mind blown.
It's all connected. And it's not just about food. He applies this principle of the gunas to, everything. Our work, our relationships, our spiritual practices.
Wow. This really highlights that interconnectedness, right? It's all connected.
Right. The Gita emphasizes that every choice we make, it has a ripple effect. It's about waking up to the impact we have on ourselves and the world around us.
I'm definitely starting to look at my choices differently.
Yeah.
What are some other practical things the Gita suggests?
Well, throughout the text, Krishna keeps coming back to the importance of self-control, equanimity, and non-attachment. He encourages Arjuna to cultivate, a steady mind, to not be swayed by praise or blame, success or failure.
So basically, don't sweat the small stuff.
It's more than that. It's about developing this inner resilience, a deep sense of peace that's not dependent on, external circumstances.
That sounds incredible. But is it even possible in today's world with all the, pressures and distractions?
That's a question we all got to grapple with, right? But the Gita reminds us we have the power to choose. We can shape our own reality through our thoughts, our actions, and our intentions.
This has been such an insightful deep dive.
Yeah.
I'm really seeing how the Gita offers this timeless wisdom that's just as relevant today as it was thousands of years ago.
And we've only just begun to explore its depths. There's still more to come. In the final part of our deep dive, we'll get into, some of the most profound and challenging teachings, surrender, true freedom, and ultimately uniting with the divine.
Okay, I'm ready to go even deeper. Okay, so we're back. Ready for the final part of our deep dive into the Bhagavad Gita. And last time, you were saying this is where things get, really deep.
Right. These last chapters, they grapple with some of the, maybe the most profound ideas in the Gita. Surrender, true freedom, and ultimately, uniting with the divine.
Okay, I gotta admit, when I hear surrender, it sounds kind of passive, like giving up. I thought the Gita was all about action.
It is about action, but it's, a different kind of action. Think of it as surrendering the ego's illusion of control, recognizing that ultimately we're not the ones calling all the shots.
So more about aligning ourselves with maybe a higher power, a sense of flow, letting go of the need to micromanage everything.
Exactly. Krishna emphasizes that real freedom, it doesn't come from forcing our will on the world. It comes from surrendering to the divine will.
But how do we know what the divine will is? Is it like some pre-written script we got to figure out?
It's less about figuring it out, more about aligning ourselves with it. Krishna tells Arjuna to act without being attached to the results, to offer his efforts as a sacrifice to the divine.
That sounds kind of familiar. Like karma yoga.
Yeah.
That selfless action idea.
Exactly. Recognizing that we're, instruments of the divine, channels for a higher purpose. We do our part, but we release the need to control the outcome.
I like that. But doesn't that risk becoming, passive? Just going with the flow, not taking responsibility for our choices.
It's not about becoming passive or giving up responsibility. It's more about recognizing that our ego's limited viewpoint is only a tiny piece of, a much bigger picture. Cultivating trust in how life unfolds, even when it takes those unexpected turns.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. And that takes a lot of faith, right? That shraddha we were talking about.
Exactly. Surrendering is an act of courage, a leap of faith into the unknown.
So if we surrender that ego's need to control everything, what happens? What does true freedom actually look like?
Krishna describes the liberated soul as someone who's free from that, constant duality, pleasure and pain, praise and blame, success and failure. They're steady, even when life gets bumpy, not tossed around by every storm.
That sounds like incredible inner peace.
It is. Krishna explains that a liberated soul sees the divine in everything and everyone. They act with compassion, understanding, their hearts just overflowing with love.
Beautiful. But is that kind of liberation, is it really achievable in this lifetime? Or is it like some far-off goal?
The Gita offers a lot of hope, but it's honest about the challenges too. Krishna acknowledges that the path to liberation, it's a long one, maybe even spanning multiple lifetimes. It takes persistent effort. But he also emphasizes that every step we take, every step in the right direction, it matters. Every selfless act, every moment of clarity, it brings us closer.
So it's not about reaching some final destination. It's about the journey itself, about growing and evolving.
Beautifully put. The Gita reminds us that life, it's this ongoing process of unfolding, becoming more of who we truly are. And those small steps we take with intention, those make a difference.
That's really encouraging. So no matter where we are on our paths, we all have the power to live, a more meaningful life.
Absolutely. The Gita empowers us to take charge of our own evolution. It's a call to awaken to our true nature, embrace the divine within us, and live with purpose.
Wow, this has been incredible. I mean, we covered so much. It's amazing how the Gita brings these complex ideas together.
And what's remarkable is how relevant it all still is. The battles Arjuna faced, those internal struggles, the tough choices, we face those too, just in different forms.
So true. There's something timeless about the Gita that speaks to, well, everyone, no matter their background, their beliefs.
And while we've explored a lot, there's always more to discover. Each time you read the Gita, each time you reflect, you might find these new layers of meaning.
It's a gift that keeps on giving.
So to wrap up our deep dive, I'll leave you with this. It's a question from the Gita. Run to him for refuge with all your strength, and peace profound will be yours through his grace. What does taking refuge look like in your life? Where do you find your true strength?
That's a powerful question for all of us to think about.